Die Strega is next. Been nearly 6 years since I've played this one. Some historical facts for you. I played a lot of a demo on my uncle's old PlayStation Magazine demo discs about 20 years back. Demo disc 52 I think, the one that had Spyro 2 and King's Adventure. But then I forgot about it and didn't think about it for 10 years until I was lurking in the Dragon Ball website Kanzenshu's forum, back when it was Daizenshu EX, and saw someone bring it up as resembling a Dragon Ball game without the license. I clicked the video, saw this intro, thought it felt familiar, and then I saw the character select screen and it all just came back to me and I decided I have to buy this game and play it again. And so I spent 4 years umming and ahhing over actually spending the money on it until I finally gave in. Then I played it and here we are today. I'll be starting with the story mode. Yeah, this 1998 fighting game has a full story mode with cutscenes and everything. And I just realised that only now I'm bringing up that this is a fighting game. We start with some narration from this old guy reading a passage from the first book of Zamuel about masters and giving evil empires magic weapons at nearly the end of the world. I didn't intend to do 2 post-apocalypse set games back to back. 1,000 years later, someone found the book of Zamuel and the relics, which are what the weapons were called. The remaining masters, called Strega, ask, "Please don't fuck up the world again," which led to a big fight between them. Some imperial family and their advisors are dead, making a mess of the Empire of Ibsen, while 11 years later some guy called Zauber managed to end up in power. All his enemies are wiped out except the Strega. So you know this village has been on fire this whole time? You'd be able to see the smoke from quite a distance away. It takes this guy a bit too long to notice.
Oh my god! The village!
This is Grad, our main character. He finds his dying auntie who tells him to escape, but this generic soldier turns up calling Grad a Strega. And we get our first fight, against Relics. Relics is an unplayable character for story mode fights only. The game is an arena based fight with full movement in all directions. There are 2 kinds of attack, melee up close and magic at a distance. A magic attack has 3 levels of charge for each time a button is pressed, and that's all I managed to remind myself of in this fight before I kill him.
Get lost!
Suddenly Grad is in the forest, shouting his revenge plans while staring out of the game's boundaries. He's joined by the old guy from the FMV, Rosen, and woman, Celia. They introduce themselves as fellow Strega looking for allies fighting against Zauber. Rosen tells Grad about the relics and that Zauber has the Master Relic.
You will join us, yes?
No way.
What? But why?
I don't care about some duty I know nothing about. Zauber killed my friends and the only family I had left, and I don't need anyone telling me what to do. I'll take care of this myself.
Shouldn't we try to stop him?
It's useless, child. He's too upset right now to hear the voice of reason.
More like too stupid. I'll do it myself. Next scene takes place in Zauber's throne room with 2 of his high-ranking men, Falmer and Raon. Raon says that only a few Strega are left while Zauber has Falmer looking to our resistance. Then we're introduced to the resistance leader Team and his ninja friend Kuga. They have a relic cornered, which Team fights while Kuga looks for others. More importantly, this fight plays this music track, which is the best in the game and I love it. Just focus on the music and not my struggling to get reacquainted with the game. Team is probably my favourite character in the game just because he's basically Siegfried from the Soul series but with 2 swords, and the voice of Tidus from Final Fantasy X. I don't just mean the same voice actor, James Arnold Taylor uses his Tidus voice for Team.
Victory is mine! Did we get them all? Good. Let's go rejoin the group then. We will stop you yet, Zauber.
An ace can never lose.
Next, Grad is fighting more relics, which ends up being fight 3. He gets knocked down by another relic, but Celia saves him. Fight 4, Celia versus relics.
I just had to win.
I guess I should thank you.
Forget it. Are you hurt?
I'll live.
Now perhaps you understand my earlier warning.
Rosen, sounding smug as fuck.
Zauber already has all the relics. In order to defeat him, you must be prepared for many, many more days like this. There's more. Zauber's Master Relic is even more powerful than the ones you've seen so far. Even if you were able to reach him, you would not last long.
Don't look so down. Will you reconsider our offer?
Oh, all right.
Don't sound too eager.
It's true.
Rosen tells the 2 to contact the Resistance, which Zauber has mostly destroyed, while Rosen himself looks for the other Strega. Meanwhile, another of Zauber's warriors, Milena, is wanted to help out with the Strega hunt to avenge her father. She's also the protector of the Empire's Princess Angie, who the southern population thinks should be ascending to Empress. Zauber comments about making the proper preparations. Meanwhile, Angie is bullying a relic for a fight under threat of the month in the dungeon. A strange Latidas sounding relic.
Please, Princess, if Madame Milena found out, she'd have my head!
Think James Arnold Taylor remembers doing this game at all. Anyway, Fight 5 Angie vs Relics.
Woohoo! I'm invincible!
I'll talk about the characters' individual gameplay more when I do their arcade playthroughs, seems better than breaking up the story. Angie decides to raid the kitchens while Grad and Celia meet up with Team. After Team laughs off their suggestion of defeating Zauber, Grad shows off his Strega powers, but that just makes Team blame them for Zauber's rise to power and politely tells him to fuck off. You see, You see, Team's the nice one because he also tells them not to try any other resistance groups because they'd kill Grad and Celia on the spot. Cougar and Team agree that their powers could be useful, but Team thinks it's still too risky. Back with Zauber, and he's telling Falmer and Raowen to wipe out the remaining resistance. He also thinks Angie is getting too popular with the people and asks Falmer to find a retired war hero named Doyle and give him
a very special job.
Back with Grad and Celia, and Grad asks why Team blames them for Zauber.
It all started 11 years ago. Zauber was just a minor landholder, a nuisance, nothing more. But that was before he got his hands on the relics. He convinced the Emperor to use the relics and expand his empire. It was the story of Zamuel all over again.
Zamu who?
Zamuel. Long ago, a small country used the relics and conquered the entire continent, but the relics were too powerful. The empire collapsed and eventually destroyed itself. To ensure that history not repeat itself, the remaining Strega sealed off the power of the relics.
That someone broke the seal.
11 years ago, 3 Strega warned the Emperor and pleaded with him to stop, but the Emperor refused to listen. He gave orders for their arrest and execution. The Strega fled, but were eventually caught. But not before Zauber had a chance to slaughter the Imperial family and blame the Strega for the act.
The Resistance thinks that we killed the Imperial family. They think we created the conditions that allowed Zauber to take over.
One of the Strega that tried to stop the Emperor survived. Rosen. The other 2 were my father and yours.
He just disappeared one day and no one seemed to know anything about it.
Just like my father, I had no idea. Although I had a feeling that my brother knew something. An older brother. I don't know where he is because we were separated during the war.
I like being able to just let the game explain. I'm sure I explain the most basic of things, as you can probably tell if you've watched this far. Also, that's a suspiciously familiar older brother Celia has. The two split up when they suspect Zauber's troops are near, which leads to Battle 6, Grad vs Relics.
What a loser!
And run right into Battle 7, Celia vs Relics.
Too bad. You lose.
After the fight, the two meet back up and hear the sound of fighting, assuming it to be the Resistance.
So this is the Resistance? What a joke. My men could have handled this without me. Finish him off.
Wait, that what? Didn't sound like he was supposed to cough. Did we lose last word somewhere? Anyway, Battle 8, Team vs Relics again. This time the game takes control from me halfway through and makes me lose.
Too many.
There's only 2.
What a loser!
Once again, Battle 9 is Grad vs Relics, followed immediately with Battle 10, Celia vs Relics. Team saved, but Cougar's missing. He's injured and resting against a tree when Milena finds him. Despite knowing he's in the Resistance, she doesn't kill him and instead gives him a handbag to snack on. Meanwhile, Falmer reports to Zauber that the Resistance has been wiped out and they found Doyle living in the mountains with his son. He also gets an off-screen visitor that makes his chin polygons freak out.
You again.
Back to the heroes, and Team's healed by flailing his swords around in a cave. To make sure he's properly better, he requests a match with Grad. Battle 11, Team vs Grad. This is the 11th fight out of 25, and only now am I actually fighting another playable character.
What a loser!
Once they're done, Celia suggests searching for the rest of the Resistance before Rosen shows up to tell them the Resistance is destroyed, and there's probably no other Strega left, until Team brings up Doyle and suggests trying to convince him to help out. Grad goes with him while Celia and Rosen wait in the cave. While that's going on, Cougar's trying to infiltrate Zauber's castle but gets caught by another relic. Cougar runs inside while Rosen tells Celia some new info on her brother. Surprise, it's Falmer.
No! It can't be! You must be
Celia decides she has to go to Zauber's castle to talk to him. Rosen's all, don't do it, and Celia goes, I'm gonna. Team and Grad are trying to convince Doyle, but...
No. I don't care what Zauber does. As long as he leaves my son and me alone.
He's using that good old, if I ignore the world-affecting issue, the problems will never affect me logic that all the retired warriors in games like to use. Grad basically calls him a pussy, and Team politely asks if he's not going to fight against Evil Magic Man, please don't fight for him either.
What a waste of time.
No, it's Team. Just remember, Grad, it's Team like it's Tidus. Now, I know you may want to argue, Grad, but when we have an actual explanation behind the name and almost every time that name's been spoken on screen it's been pronounced Tidus, with one outlier being a weird anomaly from 14 years ago, you just have to accept defeat, Grad. I know you have some made-up justifications, Grad, but the official sources don't support them, Grad. I know you're going to say, does it matter, let people pronounce it how they want, Grad. But that usually comes after having already complained at someone for saying it right and only resorting to it when you're given all the evidence you can't argue against. Grad. What I'm saying, Grad, is that when I come to power, people like you are going to be re-educated. Grad. This shit is important and I'm never going to let it go. Grad. Surprise, surprise, Falmer kidnapped Doyle's son Reyes in exchange for making him come talk to Zauber. I've no sympathy, even if it does make his face do this. While that's going on, Milena finds Celia running through the mountains.
You're too young to know anything about my father. But you are still a Strega. And all Strega must die! Wait!
Back with Zauber, and in exchange for giving Doyle his kid back, he has to kill Angie.
You may go. Falmer.
Sire?
I want him killed whether he succeeds or not. This will also give me an excuse to get rid of Milena, failing to protect her charge.
Don't interrupt me.
Beautifully played.
What news have you?
Everything is on schedule. It's all set. 11 years. It's a long time to wait.
This is only the first step. The fruits of our labors have yet to be reaped.
You are correct, of course. We shall proceed as planned.
Not we.
We finally meet the last of the game's playable cast, Reyes, in a prison cell twice the size of my bedroom, lucky fucker. After Falmer explains that they're using him to make Doyle kill Angie and that he knows Reyes is a Strega, Reyes asks why he's helping Zauber. Falmer just responds by brainwashing him. Grad gets back to the cave where Milena is waiting for him.
And what have you done with Celia and Rosen?
Rosen? He was here? My father's killer here?
Stop! Both of you, listen to me.
You again?
Hey, aren't you?
There isn't time to explain.
It would be if he'd stop fucking pausing for so long. He lets him know about everything, Zauber and Rosen working together, plans to invade Cougar's country after killing Angie and having Milena executed.
Team is on his way to meet Angie right now.
Oh yeah, he said that back in the forest after talking to Doyle, it's just I had those harsh truths I needed to tell so I kinda talked over it. Cougar looks at T while Greg goes after Celia. Celia makes it outside Zauber's castle and gets ambushed by two relics, starting battles 15 and 16. Rosen just looks at her and walks off while Falmer shows up and kills the relic. Doyle takes out one of Angie's guards and Angie doesn't even bother riding for long and faces him. She can't fight back because Jem, her floating thing, is asleep. Yeah, that thing's always been around Angie, but I just couldn't be asked to talk about it. Team then shows up, all disappointed that Doyle couldn't even do the one thing he agreed to do. Battle 17, Team versus Doyle. Takes a few tries for some reason. Hang on, no, bollocks. When I'm actually winning after a few losses in a row, it turns out I can't win anyway. Doyle, you're the worst. Before Doyle can kill Angie, Cougar and Milena show up. Relic tries to kill Doyle before he kills Angie, but Cougar warns Doyle and takes the Relic out.
He planned to execute you for killing Angie, and me for failing to protect her.
He wouldn't dare.
Oh? Did you really think he'd return your son?
Yeah, you fucking idiot. Cougar decides to guard Angie while the other three go storm Zauber's castle.
I'll stay here with the princess. This is your country. You should settle this yourselves.
Ah, any excuse. Didn't stop me snooping around there before, did it? Grant runs into Rosen in the desert and they have a little shouting match before Rosen sets 2 relics on him. So battles 18 and 19 give us a new relic to fight. It's just a new model, but everything else is the same.
What a Rosen. No matter where you hide, I will find you.
I don't think so, because...
My congratulations.
What are you doing?
I really must thank you. You've been so helpful. The relics, the Imperial family, the Strega hunt. I don't know how I could have done it without you.
What happened to that wall?
Surely you haven't forgotten. Think back. What happened to the first Strega that gave the relics to man? Come now, you must remember. He was killed by men like me.
You will share my fate.
Doyle, Milena and Team arrive outside the castle and split up, which leads to Doyle fighting another relic.
Leave me alone. Huh? Reyes! You're all right. Reyes, what's wrong? Damn you, Zauber! What have you done to my son? Reyes! It's me, Reyes, your father! This isn't you! Break the spell, son! Reyes!
What? Father? Father, wake up!
Reyes! You broke the spell! You're back!
Father! How did... Oh, what have I done? What have I done?
Doyle, what happened?
My father is...
Take Reyes somewhere. Somewhere safe.
He'll be safe with me.
Thank you, Reyes. So much like your mother.
Father!
So Doyle's dead. Good. More importantly, Team comes face to face with Raohom once again, wanting vengeance for Raohom wiping out his friends.
Victory is mine. Rest well, my friends. You are avenged.
And with Raohom dead, Team limps off, away from Zauber's castle and out of the story. Milena makes it to Zauber's throne.
Zauber, you murdering fiend! Your days of lying have come to an end.
I never lied. Why would I? When I can easily kill everyone who knows the truth. Just like I had your father killed. I already control this land. Soon I will control the entire continent. Right after I send you to the grave.
know things are really serious now, but Milena's Chaos Scream is hilarious.
Who are you?
Zauber.
Brad, be careful. He's much stronger than we thought.
Ah, you must be the Strega Rosen mentioned.
Where is Rosen?
In hell, I assume.
What?
I had him killed, you fool. Unfortunately, he was supposed to be the last Strega.
I don't know how many people you've killed. But this is as far as it goes. If you know a prayer, say it now, because you're gonna need it.
Now we're fighting Zauber for real, no forced loss. And that's the main villain defeated. Any special words, Grad?
What a loser!
Good choice.
Impossible. Me? Beaten by this whelp?
This must be the Master Relic.
That relic must not be destroyed.
What now?
I am a Strega like yourself. Perhaps it would be easier if I told you that I am Celia's brother.
Where is she? Is she alright?
She is resting in my room. She is injured, but will recover.
I thought she was dead. But then why should you care whether I destroy the relic or not?
Do you have any idea what would happen if you destroyed that relic?
Of course. The relics would lose their power.
True, but that's not all. We would lose ours as well.
The relics had been useless for hundreds of years, but we still had our powers.
True again. But that's not because the relics were powerless. There was just no one left who knew how to use them.
What do you mean?
Tell me what you know of the Strega duty.
Celia said that we had to seal off the powers of the relics.
Exactly. But we must keep our powers in the process. In other words, our task is to kill anyone and everyone that knows how to use the relics. There is more you should know. It is our responsibility to protect humanity from itself. We must prevent them from destroying the race with petty wars. In order to fulfill that responsibility, we must retain our powers. And that means killing everyone connected with the relics.
If that's true, then how did Zauber and his men get...
Rosen taught them. Rosen sought to be the only Strega. He tried desperately to kill us off. Our fathers were his first victims. He was also responsible for the murder of the Imperial family. Once Zauber gained control, he began eliminating us systematically. And if not for Zauber's greed and ambition, he might have succeeded.
Then why didn't you follow in your father's footsteps? Why help Zauber?
By the time I learned the truth, Zauber had grown too strong. I knew that I could not handle his forces alone, but history showed me a way. I needed to make the same choice Samuel had so long ago, pit relic against relic and let them destroy one another. The only way to accomplish that was to pledge loyalty to Zauber.
Just how many deaths are you responsible for?
They dug their own graves. And if by those deaths we enjoy 100, no, 1,000 years of peace and prosperity, is it not worth the price?
If this is your idea of Strega duty, I'll have no part in it. I'm going to destroy this relic now, even if it means giving up my powers.
Even if it means the death of humanity?
That's not for me to decide.
I hoped that you would understand. Nevertheless, I must perform my duties, as I see them. The Master Relic must not be destroyed!
And so, final battle, Grad versus Falmer. Good start.
What a loser!
You will regret this.
I doubt it. I know I'm right.
You will not be able to destroy that relic. You don't know the word.
What word?
It's Die Strega.
Celia!
Brother, forgive me, but if it weren't for this power, we could have lived in peace. Thousands would not have died, and we would still be a family. Brad, destroy that thing once and for all.
You got it. Destrega!
It's D-Strega, Grad, the fuck's sake, she just said. It's D-Strega like it's Team like it's Tidus.
I know I'm right.
I assume saying it wrong ended the world, since we just get credits after fading to white. Jokes aside, that was the story mode of D-Strega. Despite my making fun, it was kind of enjoyable. A lot of the acting was bad enough to be amusing, and the gameplay itself is fun. It was definitely impressive to even have a fully voiced story mode with cutscenes in 1998. It even does things I prefer over some story modes we have in fighting games today. But I'll talk more about those aspects should I ever get to those games. But the fade to white and then credits is a bit of a letdown since some characters get no resolution. Cougar, Angie and Reyes are just gone after the last scenes they appear in. It is a bit strange too that Reyes and Rose aren't used in a single fight, whether as a player character or opponent, but whatever, I'm not too bothered about that. I'm not done yet though. There's the arcade playthrough to do. Here I'll go into more detail of each character and give my thoughts on them. I have 12 characters to play through it with and they're all unlocked from the start. Of course, I'll start with Grad. Grad's a fun character. Being the main character kinda has to be the beginner one. I've always had some nostalgic attachment to him and Milena since they were the two characters playable in the demo. His thing is yellow blasts and causing explosions. That fully charged explosion spell is such a satisfying move to land with how many hits it does and the amount of damage when it does. Sometimes his shonen protagonist stuff in the story could get a bit annoying at the beginning, but otherwise he's fine apart from not being able to pronounce the title of his own game. I do have a request for Koei though. If they do the next company-wide Warriors crossover, could they at least put Grad in so I can have a Warrior-style remix of this music track please? I'd love that. Arcade is 9 fights long, ending in a fight with Zauber or sometimes Falmer. No endings afterwards, just a score based on win average, time, accuracy, stuff like that. 93 points out of 100, very good if I say so myself. Next up I'm playing as Celia. She uses wind-based magic, making tornadoes appear and all that. She's fine enough to play as, but I wasn't as good at using her as I was with Grad. I lose quite a few fights going through as her. She's also okay in the story, shame she just disappears for the last third of it. Overall she's fine, but she didn't leave much of an impression. 72 points I got with her. Next is Cougar. As mentioned earlier, he's from a distant country. He's keeping an eye on Zauber to see how everything plays out in case Zauber comes for his country next. His moveset mostly consists of throwing kunai and sickles of various sizes depending on the charge. The downside to Cougar is that he feels slower than the average character. I don't know if he really is or his run animation just makes it look that way. Another thing that bothers me about him is his arms. They just look freakishly long sometimes. Cougar's not bad, but he's probably one of the less memorable characters though. He's the one coming back to this game 6 years later that I remembered the least, as in, I'd completely forgotten about him. 73 points I got with him, just one more than Celia. Team is next, and even in that portrait his hair and face look a bit like Tidus. I've already explained earlier why Team's my favourite character. His magic is a load of purple beams of varying size. Although as you can tell by the footage I didn't do as well with Team. While Cougar's movements felt slow, Team's attacks felt slow, so I got my ass kicked a lot. Or maybe I'm just shit. I've never been a high level player in fighting games despite how much I like them. 68 points a team, I'm getting worse but that's not that bad. Now it's a character not yet seen in gameplay, Reyes. And that very first move I do is a nice start. He uses blue fire stuff for his magic. There isn't much to say about Reyes character wise since he's barely in the story, although I have to say I still don't get why Falmer had Reyes kill Doyle. I thought Falmer's plan was to kill non-Strega who knew about the relics, but Doyle and Reyes are Strega. Regardless, Reyes was a fun character to use. For the most part in this game, I feel the quicker characters are more fun, and Reyes is quick. Despite finding him fun, my performance with him was abysmal. 39 points. Abominable. Next is Angie. First thing you'll notice is her magic power is shooting giant PlayStation buttons. The buttons that she fires corresponding to the button pressed of the attack. That's enough to make the character a little bit endearing, especially considering she was designed to be the annoying kid of the game. It also she doesn't appear in the story much. Problem with the gameplay is that her spells I found the hardest to land. Since the strongest spell bounces along the ground, I found it one of the easier ones to miss with. Which led to her sharing Reyes' spot with the lowest points so far at 39, and where are my other scores? What happened was I turned the game off for a bit after Reyes' playthrough. Basically, since I had save prompts in the story mode, I forgot to either save manually in the options or activate the autosave, as was the standard with PS1 fighting games. That's what happens when you get used to an autosave from the beginning. Because there are unlockables, I will have to do it again as the first 5 characters, but I'll do it after beating it as the rest first. Next is Doyle, who I made no secret of being my least favourite character in the game. I made fun, but I don't hate him or anything. But the retired warrior who refuses to get involved because of his kid despite the fact that doing nothing puts them more at risk isn't a character type that I'm fond of. I also just think his character design is a bit bland and he has some of the worst voice acting. Also his big dumb moustache looks fake as hell. He uses actual fire for his magic, but he's really slow. Despite that I did do a little better than with the last 2 and got 55 points with him. 8th character is Milena. As I said, she was the other character in the demo, so I find her one of the most memorable characters. Her power is ice and I find her attacks quite satisfying to hit with, especially the strongest one where she rains down a series of icicles on them. Milena is another character who didn't get a resolution. We see her defeated by Zauber and talking to Grad afterwards, but she's nowhere to be seen in the next scenes with Falmer, so did she die or what? I seem to be doing alright again since I get 70 points with her. Now we're into what I guess are the boss characters, starting with our own, who is one of the 2 characters who will be the second class opponent in the arcade run. To be honest, I don't really have much to say about Raoon. If I did list the characters in order of how much I like him, he'd probably be on the lower end. He's another slow character whose visual design I don't care for, but his big red laser magic things are cool and feel good to hit with, especially that big one. And I did much better with him than I expected to, at 84 points. Currently top ranked, would have been second if I hadn't lost grads. Now for the first of the proper bosses, Falmer. I'll just say straight away that his strongest spell is the worst. It being multiple smaller lasers makes it just weird and hard to hit anyone with. His strongest spells have this rainbow colouring while the weaker are generic single colour blasts. I don't have much left to say about Falmer, the only comment I had being in the Reyes thing. I don't mind him as a character, but he was my least favourite to play as can be seen by the pathetic 37 points I got with him. Big Boss Zauber is next. He's a fun one with satisfying spells, that red ball that explodes into a massive black one being very nice to hit people with. Zauber kinda looks like an Armageddon Howard from Fatal Fury to me, and the range and strength of his attacks makes him feel like one. There's nothing more disappointing in a fighting game when you get to play as the big boss and they just aren't fun, so I'm glad Zauber avoids this. 73 points I got with him, same as Cougar and the complete opposite of the other final boss strangely enough. And finally, the other sub-boss and other character never used in gameplay during the story, Rosen. His magic is lightning and it comes out quick. I like it. That's how you make up for a character that moves slow. I think the first time I played this game I did see Rosen's plot twist coming. I joked earlier about him sounding smug, but while I did consider that it might have been weird voice direction, it just stuck in my mind. I do find it to be a bit of a shame that none of the heroes get to face Rosen, but there is some satisfaction in him being betrayed by Zauber because why would you work with a guy who wants to wipe out your kind? Of course he'll turn on you, you idiot. 63 points I got with Rosen and that should have been the end of it, but I've got to redo those first 5 characters, so... 10 point loss. I don't know why I did that was so good the first time. 3 point increase, alright. 13 point decrease, shame. Another 3 point increase. What the hell? 47 point increase, the highest score in the game after the first grads. How did that happen? Well, that's everything done in this game, but I have some unlockables to cover. The game was made by Koei after the first Dynasty Warriors, and by beating the game with a character, you unlock a Dynasty Warriors model for each character, and they are, and I'm probably going to fuck up these Chinese names, Zhao Yun for Grad and Diao Chan for Celia, Xiahou Dun for Cougar and Taisha Sur for Team, Lu Xun for Reyes and of all characters, Xu Zhu for Angie, Zhang Fei for Doyle and Sun Shang Xiang for Milena, Zhou Yu for Falmer and Guan Yu for Raoon, and finally Zhuge Liang for Rosa and Cao Cao for Zauber. Please correct me if I get any of them wrong. Dynasty Warrior 2 is going to be one of the bonus episodes, so I'd rather know by then. And that is Distrager. Despite making fun and some complaints about certain characters, I really enjoy this game. It's just a lot of fun and I think it's a shame Koei never tried a sequel. Granted, that ending prevents it. I at least hope this game gets a bit more acknowledgement in the future. Come on Koei, stick some within the Warriors Orochi or something. But despite never continuing, I'm very glad we at least got this one.